Okay, let's dive in. We're peeling back the layers on some really interesting material you've shared with us.
That's right. It's quite a collection. We're looking at, well, history, innovation, and maybe a bit of sheer grit, focused on one of the world's most recognized brands.
A brand that, for many, just means performance driving. We're taking a deep dive into the history of BMW. That's Bayerisch Motorenwerk.
Yeah, and our mission really is to unpack the story from these sources. It's sometimes dramatic, often pretty surprising, and ultimately it's about how this company came to be and, where it is today.
And it's definitely not just about the slick cars they build now. The material traces this journey that starts somewhere totally different.
Completely different industry, yeah. And it takes us through wars, near collapse, some incredible engineering moments.
It's a story stretching over, what, more than 100 years? All drawn from the sources you provided?
And right off the bat, the first big surprise in these sources, BMW didn't start with cars. Not at all. It actually began, up in the air.
Aircraft engines.
Exactly. Back in 1916, BMW gets its start making aircraft engines.
Right in the middle of World War I, building engines for planes.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It was formed from a merger of a couple of earlier companies, and the focus from day one, it seems, was high-performance engineering. They even had this significant high-altitude engine, which was a big deal for aerial warfare back then, always pushing the limits.
Which makes you look at that famous logo differently, doesn't it?
Right.
The blue and white roundel.
Uh-huh.
People often say it's a spinning propeller, right?
Yeah.
Set against the blue and white of the Bavarian flag.
It's definitely interpreted that way, and it links straight back to those aviation roots. A really strong visual connection to where they started.
But like you said, history steps in. After World War I, things changed. Germany faced really strict limits on making aircraft.
Yeah, the Treaty of Versailles basically grounded them, so BMW had to pivot, find a totally new direction.
And they pivoted hard.
Yeah.
From planes to motorcycles.
That's the move. Their whole focus shifted.
Which leads to their very first bike, the R32,
Yeah.
hitting the scene in 1923.
Ah, the R32. Such a key machine. It introduced that flat twin boxer engine, the cylinders sticking out sideways.
Yeah, iconic look.
And the shaft drive instead of a chain. That whole setup was so good, so reliable, it basically became a BMW motorcycle signature. They still use variations of it today.
Wow, so that early engineering DNA, it just kept showing up.
So they've gone from the sky to two wheels. But the car world was kind of looming based on the material. When did they actually make that jump?
Well, the official entry into automobiles comes in 1928.
Okay, how did they manage that?
They did it by buying another company, Automobile Work Eisenach.
Ah, acquisition. So what was Eisenach building at the time?
They were making a car called the Dixie.
The Dixie. I think I've heard of it.
Yeah, it was basically a licensed copy of a very popular British car, the Austin 7. So BMW's first car wasn't even their own design, technically.
Interesting. Building someone else's car under license?
But they didn't stick with that for long. By the 1930s, the sources show they were really getting into designing their own stuff, moving towards, bigger cars, more performance-focused.
Right, and that's when we start seeing models like the BMW 328 emerge.
Exactly. The sources really highlight the 328. Lightweight, agile, fast for its time.
It wasn't just a road car, was it? It did really well in motorsport.
Oh, yeah, a proper sports car and a racing success. And you can really see the seeds of their future reputation in the 328, can't you? That focus on handling, on performance. It's the start of that driving pleasure idea.
Yeah, but what's really stark in the material is how World War II just slams the brakes on all that momentum.
Right. Suddenly, the company's focus shifts again, back to aircraft engines, this time for the German military during the war.
And the fallout was devastating. Factories bombed heavily, Germany defeated. The brand was just shattered afterwards. The sources paint a really bleak picture.
It's kind of hard to imagine. To survive, they were reduced to making, everyday items, pots and pans, bicycles.
Pots, pans, bicycles, whatever they could make in the surviving bits of their factories. It really hammers home how close they came to just disappearing completely.
Dashing off the map.
It was absolutely touch and go whether they'd even make it through that period.
Which just makes their comeback story, the post-war era, even more incredible when you read about it. But the 1950s were still a real struggle, weren't they?
Oh, absolutely. A tough climb. The sources show their expensive luxury cars weren't selling in the post-war economy, and their attempts at, tiny bubble cars didn't really take off either. They were stuck.
In a really bad spot. So bad, in fact, the material mentions a serious plan for Mercedes-Benz to actually buy them out.
Yes, it got that close. Shows you just how shaky things were. But then things started to turn. A couple of key moments. First, there was this small car, the BMW 700.
The 700.
Yeah, a little rear-engined coupe, kind of stylish for its time. And it became this unexpected hit. It gave them some breathing room.
Okay, a glimmer of hope. And that sort of paved the way for the really big one. The new class, starting in the early 60s.
This is arguably the moment BMW, as we know it today, was born. Models like the BMW 1500 sedan, they just nailed the formula.
What was that formula exactly?
Compact, sporty sedans, rear-wheel drive, crucially, advanced engines for the time, good handling, solid build quality, stylish but understated.
And that combination just clicked. People wanted something more engaging, more fun to drive than the average family car.
Exactly. This is where that whole slogan, the ultimate driving machine, really starts to feel earned, starts to mean something concrete in people's minds.
Okay, so the new class sets the stage.
Mm-hmm.
Then, based on that success, they really doubled down on performance, didn't they?
They absolutely did,
Ugh.
which led directly to creating their own dedicated performance arm.
BMW MGmbH started in 1972.
That's the one, M Division. And they didn't mess around. Their first big statement was the M1.
Ah, the M1. Mid-engine supercar. Looks amazing even today.
Totally. Designed for racing, really, but became this instant road icon, too. Just legendary.
And the M Legend just exploded from there. You get cars like the E30 M3
A game changer.
and the M5s. These cars completely shifted what people thought sedan or a coupe could do, performance-wise. Like taking the kids to school Monday, tearing up a track Sunday.
Precisely. Practicality meets race car spirit. And it wasn't just the M cars. BMW as a whole was cleaning up and touring car racing. They had big spells in Formula One, powering Brabham to a championship. Later, with Williams plus success in endurance races like Le Mans, motorsport was just baked into their identity.
So moving forward, the 80s, 90s, 2000s, the material clearly tracks this huge expansion phase. BMW goes from being this respected, maybe slightly niche European brand to a genuine global player, a luxury powerhouse.
Yeah, they systematically built out their core lineup. The 3 Series, the 5 Series, the 7 Series, each became, kind of the benchmark in its class.
It's finding their segments.
Right. And then they started branching out, boldly really, into SUVs with the X Series, but performance SUVs, staying true to the brand.
The sport activity vehicle thing.
Exactly. And then more recently, pushing into electrification with the I Series, cars like the i3, which was really radical,
Very unique design.
and the i8 hybrid supercar. Plus, those big acquisitions played a massive part in their global strategy, buying MA9, buying Rolls-Royce.
And reviving them successfully.
Yeah, successfully integrating these iconic British brands, giving them access to totally different parts of the market, from quirky small cars to ultimate luxury. It was a huge transformation.
Which brings us closer to today. Looking at BMW now, the story is still unfolding, still evolving.
For sure. The material shows a really strong push into electrification now. That seems to be the major focus. But crucially, they seem determined to blend that with their performance heritage.
Yeah, that's the tightrope walk, isn't it? How do you keep that driving pleasure feeling alive when you switch to electric motors and batteries?
It's the big question. But you see models like the i4 M50, their first electric M performance car. It shows EVs can be genuinely quick and engaging. And they're doing performance hybrids too, like the big XM SUV, trying to mix that high power with some electric efficiency.
So the core idea, that cheer driving pleasure slogan they use now, it's not being thrown out. They're trying to adapt it.
Reinterpret it for a new age. Definitely. Although, as the sources point out, not everyone's happy with every change. There's debate among purists.
Oh yeah, the larger grille designs, the move away from manual gearboxes in many models.
Yeah.
People have opinions.
Strong opinions. But, looking back at the history we've just walked through, especially those moments where they almost went under or had to completely reinvent themselves.
Right, like the shift from planes to bikes or the post-war recovery.
Exactly. That history suggests this is a company that fundamentally knows how to adapt, how to change significantly without maybe losing its core identity, its engineering soul. They've navigated huge shifts before.
It really is quite a journey when you lay it out like this, based on your material. From World War I aircraft engines, through motorcycles, surviving near collapse, defining the sports sedan with the new class, the M cars, and now tackling electrification head-on. Yeah, the constant threads seem to be that engineering focus, technical skill, maybe a certain kind of German elegance, and always that emphasis on the driving experience itself.
Well, we've used your sources to try and piece together this incredible, often dramatic story.
And it really leaves us, and hopefully you listening, with something to think about. Given that BMW's history is so defined by these massive changes, these pivots from planes to bikes to cars, bouncing back from ruin, embracing SUVs, now electrification, what do you think is the fundamental unchanging essence? What's the core DNA that lets them persist and evolve over 100+ years?
Yeah, what does sheer driving pleasure actually mean when you look at it across a century of such profound transformation? Definitely something to chew on.
Absolutely. Keep exploring.